Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really cool, how developers are getting whole teams of AI agents to work together. And we're going to look at the powerful frameworks that make it all happen, LangChain and LangGraph. You know, a single large language model is incredibly powerful, for sure. But the real frontier, the thing that's going to change everything, is getting multiple specialized AI agents to cooperate. We're going to see how they can team up to solve problems that are way too complex for any single AI to tackle on its own. Okay, so let's get right into it. When you're building a system with multiple agents, there are really three main ways to get them to interact. You can think of these as different management styles or playbooks for your AI team.
First up, we've got the Supervisor model. This one's pretty straightforward. It's your classic top-down hierarchy. You have one central agent that acts like a project manager, dishing out tasks to a team of specialized worker agents. It's super clean, it's controlled, and it works great when the job is predictable. Like a customer support bot that needs to figure out if your problem is about billing or tech support, and then sends you to the right place. The steps are clear, so a supervisor is perfect for that.
Then we have the swarm, and this is where things get a lot more dynamic. Just imagine a shared office space, like a Trello board or something, where a bunch of independent experts can all see the current task. Instead of waiting for a boss to tell them what to do, they just jump in when they see something that fits their skills. This is amazing for unpredictable situations, like a big research project where you don't know ahead of time if you're going to need a data analyst, a writer, or a coder. The swarm just lets the right experts step up when they're needed. And finally, for the really, really huge jobs, there's the hierarchy. This is like a full-blown corporate org chart. You have a top-level supervisor that isn't just managing individual agents, it's directing entire teams of agents, and each of those teams has its own manager. And what this table really shows us is the fundamental trade-off, right? On one hand, the supervisor gives you that centralized, top-down control. But on the other hand, the swarm is way more adaptable and can scale up much more easily because the decision-making is spread out across all the different agents. Okay, I know that all might sound a little bit abstract, so let's make it super concrete. We're going to walk through a real-world example of a swarm that was built using a framework called LangGraph. So our little AI team is made up of three specialists. We have a generalist agent that handles common knowledge questions. Then we have a deep expert for anything scientific. And finally, we've got a translator. Now, each one has its own set of tools, but the most important tool they all have is the ability to hand off a task to another agent. So, a user comes along and types in a query. What is name for CH4? Now, by default, that request goes straight to our general question-answering agent. It's the first line of defense. But this is where the magic of the swarm kicks in. If you look at the general agent's core instructions, its prompt, it's explicitly told what it's not good at. The prompt basically says, hey, for anything related to science, physics, or chemistry, you must pass the baton to the science agent. And boom, that right there is the swarm in action. Without any central boss stepping in, the general agent sees the query is about chemistry and, on its own, hands it off to the science expert. The expert then takes over, uses its specialized knowledge, and gives the right answer, methane. Pretty cool, right? So you might be wondering, what are the actual tools that let you build these incredible systems? Well, that brings us to the two key frameworks in this whole ecosystem, LangGraph and LangChain. The absolute best way to understand how these two relate is to think about an engine versus a car. LangGraph is the powerful low-level engine. It gives you the core components to build these really complex, stateful workflows for agents. LangChain, on the other hand, is the complete car built around that engine. It's a high-level, super user-friendly framework that just lets you get up and running fast. So when you use LangGraph directly, you're really getting your hands dirty with the engine.
This gives you incredibly fine-grained control. You can map out the exact flow of a process. You can manage state, which means the system can remember things across many steps. You can even build in checkpoints so that if a long task fails halfway through, you don't have to start all over again. You can even create pause points for a human to jump in and approve an action. It's all about control.
LangChain, the car, is all about speed and convenience. It gives you these simple shortcuts, like the create agent function that lets you build a pretty standard agent in just a few lines of code. It has all these handy pre-built tools for common tasks like summarizing a conversation, and it's designed so you can easily swap out different language models whenever you want. Now, here's the most important takeaway, so listen up. This is not an either-or choice anymore. With the recent 1.0 releases, LangChain and LangGraph are now deeply connected. The easy-to-use agents in LangChain are now actually built right on top of that powerful LangGraph engine, so you really do get the best of both worlds. Okay, so if you're a developer looking at all of this, you're probably asking, where do I start? Do you just hop in the simple car, or do you pop the hood and start tinkering with the engine? Well, the guidance is actually pretty clear. You're going to choose LangChain when speed is your #1 priority. You're prototyping, building a standard chatbot, or you just need to iterate really fast. You choose LangGraph when your project absolutely has to be resilient, when you need custom logic, or when you need to orchestrate these long-running, complex tasks in a production environment. But, building this stuff in the real world is never as clean as it sounds. Check out this quote from a developer on Reddit. They're talking about solving token bloat. That's when a conversation history gets so long it gets super expensive and slow to process. And they mention lazy LLMs. That's when a model just doesn't use the tools you give it correctly. These are the kinds of gritty, real-world problems that developers are out there solving every single day. And that really brings us to our final thought. The release of LangChain 1.0 and LangGraph 1.0 is a huge milestone. The tools are here, and they are incredibly powerful. But the real art, the real challenge for you, is to master them, to figure out how to adapt their logic to solve the messy, unpredictable problems that the real world is always going to throw at you.